On January 7, 1943, an 86-year-old man died alone and penniless in room 3327 of the Hotel New Yorker. To the city around him, he was simply a forgotten eccentric from a bygone era. But within hours of his death, agents from the Office of Alien Property and the FBI swarmed the hotel. Looking at this declassified FBI memo, you can see the urgency of the response. The agents seized 2 truckloads of material from his room and a storage unit, transferring them to a secure facility under government watch. They weren't there to settle an estate. They were terrified this man had successfully engineered a weapon of mass destruction. The official historical record paints Nikola Tesla as a tragic, irrelevant figure at the end of his life. Yet the panicked national security response recorded deep inside the FBI vault tells a completely contradicting story. To understand why the United States government was so afraid of an elderly man's notes, we have to look at the highly anomalous architecture of Tesla's mind. From childhood, Tesla experienced blinding flashes of light, accompanied by vivid, involuntary hallucinations. He eventually learned to harness this trait, developing the ability to mentally simulate complex machines in 3 dimensions. He could run a motor in his head for weeks to check for component wear and tear, before ever physically building a prototype. This capacity for pure, frictionless mental engineering is exactly what allowed him to conceptualize his breakthrough invention, the rotating magnetic field and alternating current. Alternating current established the foundational operating system of the modern electrical grid, the invisible infrastructure that still powers the globe today. Because Tesla could see the underlying mathematical code of nature so clearly, his ambitions rapidly outpaced the physical and economic constraints of his era. By demonstrating that his inventions could manipulate the electrical potential of the Earth itself, Tesla proved he was operating on a planetary scale. For military intelligence, a man who had the blueprints to wire the entire world was terrifying, because those same resonant frequencies, if pushed to the breaking point, could also be used to destroy it. In 1901, Tesla began construction on the Wardenclyffe Tower on Long Island. This represented his ultimate ambition, a facility designed to transmit electrical energy wirelessly to any point on the globe. This diagram illustrates the physics of his plan. Tesla intended to utilize the Earth's natural electromagnetic field, bouncing high-frequency waves into the resonant cavity between the planet's surface and the ionosphere. The atmosphere itself would act as a giant global circuit. But this utopian vision contained a fatal economic flaw. If electricity is pulled freely from the air anywhere on Earth, there is no physical place to attach a billing meter. Tesla's primary financier was the banking titan J.P. Morgan. When Morgan realized that global wireless power meant the end of the highly profitable copper wire and utility monopolies, he abruptly severed all funding. Without capital, the project collapsed. The Wardenclyffe Tower was sold for scrap and demolished in 1917, leaving Tesla bankrupt and isolated. The scientific establishment abandoned him. His greatest idea was simply incompatible with a capitalist energy market built entirely on scarcity. When an inventor is driven into poverty because their benevolent creations cannot be monetized, they face a dark reality. To secure funding, they are forced to pivot to the one thing governments will always pay for: weapons. Retreating to the shadows of cheap New York hotels, a desperate Tesla began shopping a highly classified invention to the United States, Britain, and the Soviet Union. He called it Teleforce. It was a theoretical particle beam weapon designed to accelerate charged mercury atoms to near light speed through a vacuum tube, generating 60 million volts of destructive force. Tesla specifically claimed this beam could melt the engines of enemy aircraft from 250 miles away, creating an invisible, impenetrable wall of defense around a nation's borders. Looking at this New York Times clipping from 1940, the public nature of his claims is clear. As World War II escalated, the U.S. War Department developed an intense paranoia that Axis spies, or even Tesla's own relatives, would abduct him and steal the blueprints for this death ray. Driven by a profound desperation to regain his standing and fund his laboratory, Tesla had inadvertently transformed himself from a celebrated scientific visionary into a closely monitored national security threat. Which brings us back to the 1943 hotel raid. For decades, internet myths have claimed that the agents found a fully functional laser weapon or a suppressed free energy machine while sifting through his effects. These declassified files reveal the military concluded his seized papers were highly theoretical, with no working prototypes found. The real tragedy buried in these censored pages is psychological. History's most brilliant mind reduced to drafting doomsday devices in a hotel room simply to be heard. The deliberate economic erasure of Tesla's early benevolent visions for a connected world represents a far more significant suppression than any missing laser weapon. For most of the 20th century, Tesla was quietly written out of standard physics textbooks. Yet today, our entirely wireless, alternating current-powered society runs off his foundational blueprints. Even advanced atmospheric research facilities today, like HAARP in Alaska, rely on the exact ionospheric resonance principles he championed at Wardenclyffe over a century ago. Tesla seemed to understand this eventual vindication. He once wrote, "The present is theirs. The future, for which I really worked, is mine." The government agents who tore apart room 3327 were desperately searching for a weapon to help them win the present. They completely missed the fact that the dead man in the bed had already engineered the future.